It's so nice to actually see you.
I know. In
In person,
person we can actually talk and not at the station.
Yes. I mean, we text, we call
Yes.
each other, we connect. So I know of your story these last, year or so.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling right now?
So I'm feeling great. I've been feeling great. It was a shock of what happened. And it's funny because when we talked about doing this story, and I thought about, I know Breast Cancer Awareness Month is in October, and I've been thinking about it all along. The first thing is I call it the C word because it never related to me. My dad died of stomach cancer when I was 9, so it was such a scary word. So when I found out that I had breast cancer, every time it was like, oh my gosh, I have to deal with this. This is the C word, and da 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 da. Now I can say, I had breast cancer. And that was a big, that is a big, it's still hard for me to say. It's still hard for me to talk about it. And it's silly because I watch all these brave women on Instagram who had it so much worse and are dealing with so much more. And they're so open. It's just that everybody deals with it differently. But now I've learned there's such a wonderful community of women out there that support and talk about it. And you can learn so much from these women. And I felt like, you know what? If someone's just learning about this now, someone's in the same situation as me, maybe it's time for me to say what happened to me, and then I could help.
Our viewers are going to be like, when? When did this happen? You were on TV the whole time. You were doing Taste of the Towns. You were at events. You were being your usual bubbly, happy, full of life personality. Mm-hmm. But you were dealing with this in the background. So take me back timeline-wise.
So in January of 2025, the year didn't start out great. It was time for my 6-month ultrasound. So I for the last 3 years, they were following what they knew was a fibroid, pretty sure, on my left side. And they said, this is going to be the last year we have to do an ultrasound on it because cancer doesn't grow, and that's it. So it was the night before that ultrasound. And I just had a mammogram 6 months prior, clean. So the night before, I was like, oh, I never really do self-breast exams. And I could never feel what they were looking at on the left side. And I went to the right side. And right at 12 o'clock, I felt a hard lump on the very top, almost to the bone. And I woke up my husband, he was sleeping, and I was like, do you feel this? And he was like, yeah, but it could be anything, you're going tomorrow, and I'm sure it could be a cyst, it could be anything. And I was like, yeah, but it bothered me. I didn't like the way it felt. I went in, and there was only a prescription for the left side, which is a thing. So when you have dense breasts that many women have, I think it's very important if you're doing ultrasounds that you have them for both sides. So I said to the nurse, we need to look at the right. They said, we can't, we don't have the prescription. And I said, no, call the doctors, please, I'm feeling something. They did. They spent 2 seconds on the one on the left, knowing it was nothing, and 35 minutes on the right. And then the doctor came in, the radiologist came in and said, this is what we call a gray area. We don't know, could be this, could be that, but we have to biopsy it. And so the good news is it's January, it's a slower time, and we have an appointment for you tomorrow morning. So I biopsied the next day, and it was like, I talked to a bunch of friends, oh, I had that, it was a cyst. I was like, oh, it's not gonna be anything. Mm-hmm. And I'm driving to work on a Taste of the Town shoot. I had 2 of them scheduled to meet that photographer, and I get a call on 95, and he's like, Lisa, I'm much sorry to tell you, you have a lobular tumor in your right breast. I was like, what does that mean? It's breast cancer. We don't know what stage it is. So you're either going to have a lumpectomy, mastectomy. What I can see, I don't think it's in your lymph nodes. I think, but you have to have an MRI to tell you that. So the good news is you're going to have one in a day and a half. So it was boom, boom, boom. I was very lucky that way, finding out. And so when I went on the Friday to go for the mammogram, when I went on the Friday to go for the MRI, very early in the morning, I was leaving to the Keys to one of my best friend's daughter's weddings. And so I got that done, and I went through this wedding the whole weekend, like, didn't say a word, scared to death. And then on the Monday morning, I came in with my sister and my husband. Everybody had a notepad but me, shaking, so because we didn't know what stage. Because the one thing the doctor told me, that a lobular tumor is very common, that's the good news. The bad news is it hides. So I said, but I had a mammogram 6 months ago. He was like, I know, but we didn't see it. So then I thought, did they miss it? Has it been laying there a year that we missed it? So when I was shaking when the doctor walked in, and he walked in, he said, his name is Dr. Juan Paramo from Mount Sinai. He said, I'm Dr. Juan, I'm going to give you a big hug, and I'm going to tell you the first thing before you can hear anything else is you're going to be fine. This is stage 1. I don't think it's in your lymph nodes. I'm going to take out 6 to 8 to make sure, and I'm saying it's a lumpectomy only, and now we're going to talk about the rest of it. And then we were just like all like could breathe, but it's scary, and it's scary. So, you know, we'd had the surgery, and after that, we had to find out, to test the tumor, find out all these things if I needed chemo. Thankfully, I didn't, and I went through, while working, we did 15 straight days of radiation. So every day you go in, they radiate you for a few minutes, and then you get out back the next day. And I'll have my first mammogram since that soon.
You never missed a beat. You never stopped. And I think that speaks to just the person you are, but also, as a woman, as a mom, as a career person, you feel like you can't stop, right? It's just.
And I think I think that could be a good thing, because now that I've really looked back, I was in that emergency mode at the time. Get this done, da, da, da. And sometimes that's not great. I think you have to sit with it for a moment. But at the same time, you're going to get through it, and you got to power forward, and that was my mind. I've got to power forward. I'm going to get through this. I did a couple of videos just talking to myself, not even thinking about a story, just like, where am I now? And I was saying, I just have to get through this. 4th day of radiation. I just have to get through it. 13 more days to go, or whatever it was. And the one thing I've also noticed with this is, in the beginning, when you get this diagnosis, you're like, this is my whole life now. This is all I'm going to be. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to go to sleep. All of a sudden, and I was hearing somebody on Instagram talk about an account I follow, and she said, there will be a time when it's not the first thing you think about when you wake up, and it's not the last thing you think about when you go to bed, because you do think about it all the time in the beginning. And now I know I'm really, really, really blessed that I caught it early, and that is the thing, is staying on top of it, knowing I was going for that 6-month ultrasound, and then if it happens, you're going to be okay, no matter. There's so many people out there struggling much, much worse, but you just got to stay positive and say, I'm going to beat this thing.
I know you have a very important appointment coming up soon, so I know it's fresh in your mind. Obviously, doing this, sharing this story for the first time, so this is fresh in your mind. But had you gotten to a point where it wasn't the first thing you thought about in the morning and the last thing you thought about at night?
Yes, and so when I told my daughter, because I wanted the family to talk about if I was going to do this story, and I was like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm lucky. I'm there's so many people suffering worse, and she was like, well, no, I think it's great that if you can help anybody with this story, that's what you do. But Mom, the one thing you're going to have to realize is you have to say, I had breast cancer. You can't say I'm going to the C word doctor, because that's what I say. You got to face that. And then I was like, yes, you're right. It's just I kept putting it out of my mind. But at the same time, I'm now saying, yes, I wake up in the morning and I think what I have to do. And there's little flutters some happen during the day that I'll think about something, or I feel a little bit of the pain still. When I found out and I met Leon, our photographer, for the shoot, I was in a puddle, and we couldn't cancel the shoot because it was at a famous restaurant in Fort Lauderdale that had just reopened, and they had hired dancers, and I couldn't cancel. And so I did this shoot, and I remember it was like a different person, and I was like, I just have to power through this. So whether that's good or bad, I don't know, but I think that if you just keep pushing forward, definitely have the moments that you can cry and be upset, the people that you love, your family, your friends, but that you go, I'm going to beat this crap. I'm going to do it.
Was it Mai Kai?
It was Mai Kai.
Have you watched that story back?
So it's so funny that you said that, and we can show that too. I was on the stage in the tag, right, Leon? I was on the stage dancing, having to do something, and I remember thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? I was so scared. I just found out. But at the same time, it was like, I'm going to continue my life. That's kind of my personality. So I haven't hid this from anybody. I've told you, I've told my close friends, obviously, people that I know, coworkers, but I haven't gone public because I didn't know that it's something I should say, and then I decided, you know what, everybody's dealing with something, and we're moms, we work, we do this, everybody's got something, and if you can just stay positive and say, you know what, I'm going back to my regular self, I'm not going to be anything else but that. That's what I'm trying to do.
And not only that, but going back to when you were first explaining how, you know, you were doing a self-check and all these things.
Yeah.
There's some important lessons here to
Yes.
unpack.
Yes.
Let's start with the self-check.
Yeah.
I can say probably I'm a lot like you in the sense of, what am I looking for?
What am
I doing? And sometimes, honestly, I'll be very candid. I am scared to do it.
I know.
Sometimes, because I'm like, what if this is the time I do it and I find something?
Yes.
So what do you tell women who, one, don't know what they're doing, what they're looking for, or who are just scared to even, you know, look?
Yeah. So I knew 2 years ago they found this thing, and I was like, oh my God, what? And then they said, oh, we can see, and they write you back, we're 99% chance this is a fibroid. You have, you know, fibrocystic, dense breasts. We're just going to follow it. I kept trying to feel it. They're like, you can't feel it. I was like, well, and to me it was like mushy something. And because when you have dense breasts, everything kind of feels lumpy. But then I just said something. I mean, up there said, go to the right side. Go to the right side. And it was literally, it felt that there was a knot. And it was definitely higher up towards my chest bone that you could feel it. But it, you know, I didn't know. It could have been a cyst, but it wasn't. And nobody in my family has breast cancer. I didn't think I was a candidate at all. The other thing is, what's happened sometimes, I think people are so wonderful that they want to give you all the advice, and sometimes they over-advise, and so you get so confused because there's so much information coming at you at one time. So I think it's kind of like, give it a second, do your own research, talk to your doctors that you trust. I shopped around for doctors that I felt more comfortable with. You know, Mount Sinai did my surgery and radiology. My oncologist is at University of Miami, and it's just because that worked. I heard from a friend, they loved her, they loved him. I trusted them. So there's also in teaching that. But self-breast examinations are huge, and this is what I'm finding out from all this community I'm seeing of women is many of them found it themselves.
Even with annual mammograms, even with ultrasounds and MRIs and all these things, because you were doing everything right.
I was doing it.
You were following all the protocols and all the guidance.
Yeah. And it was a miracle because I didn't normally touch anything. I didn't do self-breast exam. The night before, I was like, oh, still can't feel that one. Let me try this one. And that was it. If I didn't, it would have been another year that it would have sat in my system. I would have had a different cancer in my body.
And that's the crazy thing. When you said they were only going to do, it was an ultrasound?
Yes.
On the left breast.
Yeah.
And you had to advocate for yourself for them to do one on the right. I mean, I won't get into insurance and probably what was pre-approved and all these things, but also just the message of telling women, you know your body. Advocate for yourself.
Advocate
and
if you
push.
Yes, and if you have dense breasts, I would say every 6 months, if your doctor recommends it, obviously, both. Mm-hmm. Why not? Why are we going to check one and not the other? So both. That scared me, and that was my thank you to God that something made me do that self-breast exam that night. So.
And you have this mammogram appointment coming up
tomorrow.
I know the story will air after that.
Yeah.
But what are your feelings going into that appointment?
So there's always angst, and I talk to so many women that go through. The first time is really scary, but when I talked to my radiologist the other day, she was like, Lisa, let me just tell you, you've been radiated so much that they actually delayed it. It's 8 months after the surgery. We usually go because there's so much tissue that's so sensitive that it would really disturb the tissue. So we waited 8 months because now it's just to get a fresh test what the new look of it looks like because it's been radiated, and that will be going forward. And then I will be very diligent, same thing, every 6 months, testing. I'm on a pill for 5 years that stops estrogen growth in the body. That comes with other symptoms. You know, I've never had anything where I exercise, I'm moving all the time, and all of a sudden I'm like, owie, you know, there's symptoms, you know, that happens. But boy, whatever it is, you power through it. And you thank God, and you're like, I'm just gonna be myself, and I work, and those are things that make me happy.
So going into Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I mean, you've seen these stories.
I've done these stories.
You've done these stories.
Yeah.
For your own story to be told, I know you thought about it. You said you kind of powwowed with the family to say, like, do I want to do this? What was the reasoning behind saying, yes, I'm going to go ahead and share this with our viewers who've been watching you for years? They feel like part of your family at this point. They think they know you, and you're sharing this new layer.
I was scared because I like I said before, I was scared because I feel like people are in worse situations, and I didn't want to come off like, oh, what can I say? There's so many more worse cases. And I talked to a woman, a friend of mine, and she has another kind of cancer, and she said, sharing anything can help somebody. Telling your story can help someone, because just the experience of what you went through, or maybe they didn't think that you had to do both sides, or maybe they didn't think all the little things that happened to you, and then seeing that, you know what, you're continuing to live your life, and yeah, you're gonna have moments where you're crying in your pillow or you're in your car, what happened, but that you're gonna power through it. And I thought I just want to give people a little inspiration, and also because I've been on the air so long, I felt like it was time for me to be honest. I love the viewers. I'm a goofball on the air. I'll do anything. This was a little scary for me. I don't normally talk about myself. But I wanted to be honest to the people that have been watching for a long time and say, yeah, it happened to me too. And I am part of this breast cancer community now. Maybe one that you didn't want to be in, but then when you get to learn about these power women, because they are so impressive, I'm like in awe of them. I'm in awe of them.
They truly are amazing.
Yeah.
Because we hear chemo and radiation. So you said 15 days of radiation?
Yeah, 3 weeks straight. So you don't get to do the weekends. So
okay.
15 days straight. The scary part is, because radiation, as these women know who've gone, it's also difficult, but you can go to work. But it starts to, I thought it's no big deal until I started it, and then all of a sudden your skin starts burning. People have different reactions. Mine wasn't that easy. And then I was going on shoots after, and I was a little emotionally affected by what's going on? My boob is burning and I don't feel well, and I'm gonna go do a story. But you get through it. Chemo is a different animal. I was so fortunate that I didn't have to do that. And but it does mess with your mind, because once you hear that you have breast cancer, the other thing is the people that I have told, people that are super nice, and I haven't seen them in a while, they're like, hey Lisa, how are you? I'm like, hey, good, how are you? And they're like, but how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I beat this. And so I'm very much of, this is behind me. Mm-hmm. That's just the way I handle it. Do I worry a little bit about things coming forward? Yeah, but I kind of also know it's behind me. I'm going to power through. And if there's anything I can say, that's what I want to say to people, is just that positive attitude, I really think is a big thing.
With breast cancer specifically, well, all types of cancers, but you mentioned the radiation and not needing chemo.
Yeah.
So was there a part of you, again, who felt, see, I don't have it as bad. I don't need chemo, so I don't have it as bad. So you felt like, I don't want to say guilty. Guilty's not the right word, but just being like, oh, I shouldn't feel sorry for myself. There's someone who has it worse.
Yeah.
Because they need chemo and they might lose their hair, and you didn't have to go through that.
I am so grateful and thankful for that. And I have such a more understanding of the women who do. I follow these young women with young children, and I get emotional about it, because I can imagine how unbelievably hard that is, and have little children, or when you're older, whatever stage you get it is the scariest thing. And going through chemo is another animal, but I've seen so many of them power through it. So Olivia Munn and Allison Hall, the reporter from Inside Edition, and she did a story on her, and they both are young women, and they both had to have double mastectomies, and they're in their 30s and they're going through this. And to watch these young women power through, going through all of that, that's kind of one of the reasons I said, you know what, I was DMing one of them, and I said, I've done this, but I haven't shared my story. I feel bad about that. And they were like, no judgment on any of it. No judgment. This is what makes us feel good, and helping others. And that's when I said, I've got to tell a little bit about this. I don't know what I can say that can help people, but the only thing is you're going to be okay. They're doing so much now. Cancer is not a death sentence anymore. Breast cancer is not a death sentence anymore. You can power through it, and you're going to get through it. There's a lot of different roads. Some are easier than others, but you can get back to life, and you don't have to think about it right before you go to bed, right when you wake up in the morning anymore.
What do you think about when you wake up now?
When I think about when I wake up, that I probably didn't sleep that well, because I never do. And what am I doing today? Because work is crazy, right? And so it's trying to figure that out. And same thing, kids and life and family, and the busyness of the day, which is a good thing.
The chaos. You miss just that chaos.
Yes, yes. The worry in the beginning is overwhelming, because the information comes at you so fast, and you've got to figure it all out. And for me, it was all happening really fast. And when the surgery was done, I think I had, from diagnosis to surgery, was like 3.5 weeks. I didn't know. And then all of a sudden I was home, and I was like, what? It took about 10 days off after the surgery, but then I was just like, when is it getting in the house? And then we had to wait about the chemo if I was going to have it, and wait for the healing, and then wait for the healing for the radiation. And you're just off. But women are strong. I mean, we get it done.
But three weeks seems fast.
It was,
like, for all of it. Like, just, did you ever feel like you were watching your life from the outside, like it was just a movie?
Yeah.
And fast forward, like, what is going on here?
It's a little bit me. I do everything in fast mode, as it's lightning and thundering. Oh
my, intense.
Yeah. It's a little bit me because I do everything fast, so I kind of like a fast pace. So I wanted to power through. When can I get this out? When I was waiting, it was an additional 2 weeks to get the surgery. I hated walking around with it, knowing it was in my breast. So the fast part was good. I wanted it out. And then the hardest part actually was not so much the lumpectomy. It was they took, I think, 8 lymph nodes out, and they tested them. And waiting for that result was a lot. And that's what I was so thankful for. But that was a more painful part of it. And then when they radiate after that, it's not fun. But like I said, compared to so many other women that have it so much worse, I'm so beyond lucky. And so that's just what I want to say to everybody out there that's gone through this in all levels. You know, we're fighters, we're women, we can do it, and stay positive. It does not have to be a death sentence. It really doesn't. And, you know, I don't know. It's just, it's strange. It's strange. I'm now saying the word. I'm getting over the C word. I had breast cancer. It's behind me. I'm moving forward my life, and I'm so lucky.